Why so sad?
I know, I'm good.
We won now. I mean, we did win the game. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I'll start this. You trust your defense, obviously.
Yeah.
But Wake can score. Do you feel like, do you tell your guys, this has to be our best game of the year, Saturday?
Well, we say that every week, and we're chasing that. And we felt good going into this last week because we were making progress and just kind of hit a little bump in the road. Didn't play our best at spots. Some of the guys we were counting on, but not gonna put any more pressure, on these guys. I mean, they already got a ton of stuff that they're trying to unload. Biggest thing for us is just focus on the plan. The details, put together the best week of practice, and understand that, yes, we are going to have to score some points, but we can't press. We just got to play within the system. Everybody, our best players got to play well. That's going to give us a chance. And then obviously complement the defense, complement the special teams, and just be ready to do our part and do whatever it takes. One thing that I love about this group is that they're finding a way to win. Regardless. You think about the adversity, and like I told you last week, like we know it's coming. All right, so it's coming. So then, J. Ross goes out, and obviously DJ, he's struggling a little bit. Tyson comes in, provides a spark. Then Tyson's out, and so it's just it's always something. But these guys continue to find a way to persevere and push through. And so we're going to build on that. Put together the best plan, and focus on some of the things that we have an opportunity to accomplish. Obviously, Wake is a very, very good team, having a special season, but we got a group of seniors. That has a chance to go undefeated at home. We got a lot of things. It's senior day. It's their last time in the Valley. So there'll be a lot of juice for this one, and hopefully we can channel that energy in the proper direction, which results in clean execution, and hopefully some points on the board.
Did DJ get any more banged up on Saturday?
Not that I know of. I think that he had. I get the question about some of the throws. We didn't do a great job interior-wise. They got a lot of push. That 57 for them's a big guy, 330 pounds. Got some push, got on our guards and centers, so he wasn't able to follow through on some of his throws, which resulted in the ball coming out. Not as tight a spiral as you would like. But from what I know, DJ's ready to go. And again, he gets the focus, but when you throw the perfect ball and it's dropped. The receiver dropped it, but the quarterback on his stats, that goes as incomplete. And then there were a couple, as I said, after the game, there were a couple of boots that they did a good job of playing, so we had to throw the ball away. There was a play on a slant and go to Bo, where Bo should have stayed outside because the quarterback's expecting to be outside. Young guy had soft coverage, comes back inside at the last second, but the quarterback's already made the decision to release the ball. So just happy that he found a way. And what I really like is, that last drive before the half, the 2-minute drive. That's a couple weeks in a row we've been able to put together a 2-minute drive. And I know the question's coming, why not play in 2 minute all the time? There's risk reward with that as well. That, and then coming out at the beginning of the second half and putting together a drive to go score points, and then after that it was time to get some other guys some work. So,
Tony, what have you seen out of Wake's defense so far? They have given up points.
Yeah, they have, but man, they play hard. Obviously, every time you play Wake, they're going to be a little bit undersized at spots, but what they lack in maybe physical stature, man, they make up in heart and effort, toughness. They understand their scheme very, very well. You just watch them. The guys up front, especially on the D-line, they step in unison. They're very good with their hand placement. They got experience at linebacker. They have 12, who was a safety now, so they got a little bit more athleticism at linebacker. They're confident in playing their man coverage. They blitz when they need to. You just see a group that is playing with a ton of confidence, right? They know where they're supposed to be. They know how to play the defense, and they're having a lot of fun doing it.
I'm guessing, Tony, that you probably looked at Wake's offense a time or two, maybe during the offseason or something like that. Why, in an era when it's tempo, does that slow mesh point work?
Well, for them, I don't know the details of their system, but I know that they run a lot of plays. So and in the past they had played with some good tempo, but I think they understand their personnel. So everything is coordinated. Right, and that's the biggest thing offensively is everything being in unison and coordinated. So in terms, like for us, the depth of the back, right, is coordinated with the steps of the offensive line and the aiming points. And so it's very similar with them. What I see is, they do a good job of all the linemen working together, building that wall, right, to protect the mesh. And then at the appropriate time, after the quarterback's made his read, boom, then there's a hole and the back finds it. And, philosophically, they're committed to, okay, 3 yards is a good gain, 4 yards is a good gain, and then they'll just kind of stay ahead of the chains. But they know what they're doing. They perfected it, and they're having success doing it.
Tony, when the ball sails on DJ, some of these intermediate throws, is there a common thread to that, something mechanically that he's doing?
Some of the throws in the game, when you go back and watch it, he wasn't able to follow through. So some of those balls there, we're still working on him just to, to keep his feet, pointed at his target, make sure that he's not throwing off balance, trying to make sure he's not throwing across his body, so those are all things. And again, you're talking about a young man that's ultra talented, has been able to do those things. But as he goes forward, there's just going to be a couple of things that we're trying to help him, clean up, because the margin for error in the passing game, the higher you go up, the smaller that margin for error is.
Did he mention anything to you about the knee bothering him?
No. He didn't. He didn't say anything. And again, we haven't met with him, so we'll meet with him today at 4. Get all the guys back together. We'll meet as an offense. We'll go through, the good, the bad, the ugly of the game, and be able to communicate. But saw him after the game. Had a big smile on his face. I think what you're learning about him is he's committed to the program and doing whatever it takes. If he's got to play hurt, he's going to play hurt, and he's going to do the best he can. And I guarantee you, if you talk to him, he's going to take ownership of his mistakes. In a couple of the balls, and then what we got to get him to grow is to challenge the guys around you. What I'm saying, to elevate their play. That when I make the throw, catch it. What I'm saying, because his confidence builds off of that, and everybody's confidence builds off of that. And then we get ourselves out of situations where we're having to just throw the ball down the field. Now we can kind of control the defense and play a little lateral. Play with a little bit of tempo once we get into rhythm.
Tony, it seems like some teams have had success against Wake running the quarterback zone. Do you feel like you can have some opportunities to do that with DJ with his knee and then Tyson?
Right. So, when you look at their structure, they've changed over the years. They used to be a 4-down cover 4 team. You knew exactly how they were going to line up. Now, as I said, because they're playing man coverage, they can get extra hats to the box. So if you're in 2-by-1 with the tight end in the backfield and the running back, they're going to have 7, right? In essence, you only got 6 blockers unless you have the ability to use the quarterback to neutralize the numbers. So with their structure, they're going to force you to have to run the quarterback to be able to establish the running game. And then from there, you can set up your play actions to take advantage of the one-on-one coverage on the outside. So definitely going to have to be ready. All hands on deck, all bullets in the gun, ready to fire.
Just with DJ, how comfortable do you feel right now running him?
He hasn't shown me anything that doesn't give me confidence. Like you look at the Louisville game, he ran it while he was limping. So it's really just kind of as the game dictates, and in the situation where we were in last week, really wanted to challenge Phil, kind of take the next step, give Rencher an opportunity. And then obviously Tyson, like you said, we had to plan with Tyson until he went down with his shoulder.
Tony, just given the sheer talent you guys have at wide receiver, why do you think these guys are dropping balls?
That's a tough question. I wish I knew the answer to that. I think that sometimes you overthink things and you try too hard, right? It's like any rhythm sport player. You got to get into a rhythm. You got to have some success, and sometimes you just got to work through it. Like if you're in a slump in baseball, you just got to keep swinging. You got to tweak it a little bit. And then again, we've asked these guys to do a lot too. You talk about EJ, so now EJ has to play in a different spot when Ross goes out, right? So now he's in a different spot. So when you do that, there's thinking involved, and the last thing that you want for a skill guy is to be thinking, right? But again, you got a younger guy having to go to a new position in the middle of the game, trying to transition his mind to all the details associated with that. So that could be a piece of it. And then just the biggest thing is hey, don't feel the pressure. Just go play and have fun. And really, when you're catching the ball, from my experience, when I played, you want to be thoughtless. You want to be in a zone. You want the ball to look about that big. But there's times too where that ball can look like it's that small. If you're not careful, if you're thinking too much when you're trying to catch it. 'Cause, I mean, you look at EJ, like that catch, he almost made the exact catch from the ACC championship with the one hand, and so it's there. We just gotta get him to a place to where he's not thinking, not putting too much pressure on himself, and just go play free.
You think the high number of inaccurate passes also contributes to it because they don't necessarily know if it's going to be where they want it to be?
Because we tell those guys that you make the routine catch all the time and the impossible catch most of the time. So you're not, as a wideout, you're not worrying about where the quarterback puts it, right? You're just, if it gets into your zip code and you can get your hands on it, you catch it. That's the mindset, and that's always been the mindset. Coach Sweeney instilled that in me when I was a player, and that's the same mindset that we try to instill in these young men. It don't matter, make your quarterback right. So you don't think about that, and that's one of the things that kind of drives me crazy, because you see it a lot nowadays, especially at the higher level, where you'll have a receiver, getting after a quarterback. Nah, buddy, that quarterback's got so much stuff that he's got to think about and process. If he gets that ball close to you, then you got to have the mindset to catch it. And and it takes younger guys, buying into that, having success, so that they adopt that mindset. But I don't think that's an issue of them overthinking that the ball's not going to be where it's supposed to be, because they're coached to catch it wherever it is.
Everything coming 9-1 Chicks Coach Division. 10 years ago, your first year, y'all were 9-1 in this game in Chicks Coach Division. What do you remember about that game and just that kind of atmosphere?
9 years ago, Lord, I was talking to somebody. As a matter of fact, I was talking to the ACC crew, and I couldn't even remember who we played last week. Remember that, Ross? I was like, okay, last week versus. Oh man, I can't. To be honest with you, oh man, that's a blur. 9 years ago. But here's what I know about playing Wake Forest. Right. I lost to Wake Forest my senior year. I was part of that 03 team. Right, and They got after. They deserved to win that game. They took it to us. But Wake Forest is always going to play you hard. That's one thing I've always respected about their program. They may not have the talent of the teams that they play, but man, they play hard. They believe in their school, their program, and they lay it on the line. And so, just happy for those guys to even be in this position. Coach Clausen is an awesome guy. From what I know, my interactions with him, he's been very, very cordial, very nice when he didn't have to be. You can watch and see how his kids play, that they're very disciplined, very structured program. So excited for them to have an opportunity, but really focused on us and the opportunities that we have, because we have a lot of opportunity here as well. Chance to stay alive in the hunt, but more importantly, we got a longest home winning streak, in the country. We got a chance to send back-to-back senior classes out, undefeated at home. 5 years in a row undefeated at home. So we're going to focus on us. And for us, at this time of year, every game is a championship game. That's why we call it the championship phase of our season. So that's what we're focused on.
You mentioned DJ wanted to see more sort of leadership, him and holding other guys accountable. What's your assessment of the receiving corps as a whole in that department, sort of how they've handled disappointment, how they've exerted themselves?
Right.
Sort of as in that leadership sort of.
It's been tough because so many guys have been up and down. So then you got basically Ngata, so kind of back to where we were last year. Ngata, Latson, and Ross possibly out, right? So those are your main guys, and so with their rehab and some of the things, they're here at practice, but they got to do their things to the side. So when there's times for that you would like for them to step up from a leadership standpoint, some of those guys are actually physically not there. And then I think with guys having to move around and play so many different spots from week to week, man, they're more focused on just trying to get the plan down. So it's a little bit tougher from a leadership standpoint. But last week, I know I got the questions after the game. Not concerned about it. I think it was just a function of readjusting to the schedule, playing a 12 o'clock game, being ready to go. There's a lot of emotions from a military standpoint. I know, especially in EJ's family. So there's no excuse for it, right? But it wasn't a cause for alarm for me, with those guys, because prior to that, man, we've been catching the ball really well. They were blocking well on the perimeter, right? So they're believing and they're progressing. We just got to continue to help them, as they face the adversity, to push through the adversity with the right perspective, time in and time out. And that's tough for any of us. I mean, you can imagine, you look at your own lives, man, you're faced with adversity every single day. And we don't always respond, the way that we want to or should, but you have another opportunity the next time. So that's how we're going to approach it with these guys, keep pushing them, and really challenge a guy like Bo. Bo's a guy that has earned, his respect on the field, that he can step up and lead. And so just getting all those guys, Will Sweeney, obviously, he's in a different situation because, he doesn't play as much on the field as a wideout, but man, he's a 6-year guy in this program. He knows this program, better than anybody. Man, step up and lead. Will Brown, same thing with those guys. And it gets tough. I was a former walk-on, so I understand, how that is, trying to step up and lead. But we need all those guys. We need everybody at every position just to take ownership of that. And that's a lot of what all the adversity that we're going through is about, is growth and development from a character standpoint.
So after it seemed like the offensive line was taking strides forward, is there any reason why you feel like it kind of went backwards this past week?
Well, Putnam being out, hurts us just because of his experience and his ability to kind of set the tempo. You got still Marcus Tate. He's played 10 games, but he's still a freshman. And trying to figure out how to get better week in and week out. Especially you get to this point of the season. This is kind of where some of the young guys hit the wall. Because their seasons are usually about over, and we're just like kind of cranking up in our championship phase. And then I think there was some battles that were lost one-on-one. There were a couple of situations where we came off of double teams too early when we should have stayed on the double teams a little bit longer. Trotter's going to give you everything that he has, but, 57 is 330, and he's about 280, So there was some one-on-one battles that we lost. So just a combination of things. That's why I said I wasn't overly concerned. There's a chance we get Putnam back, on the inside. Losing Bockhorst, hurts from a leadership standpoint. So now, those other guys like Rayburn got to step up, Trotter's got to step up. But, we're going to figure out who the best 5 are, at the end of the week, run those guys out, and believe those are going to be the ones that give us a chance to win.
With Putnam, I think that was said he thought he'll be back this week. The plan is he goes to right guard and keep Rayburn at center.
We'll discuss that, kind of see how he is. But you got a lot of combinations. He could go in at right guard. You could put Trotter at center. You could put Rayburn at left guard. Still rotate in there. You could keep Tate. So we got some combinations, and we'll evaluate and make that decision later on throughout the course of the week.
Did Mays and Tucker show enough to think they could actually be a part of the rotation in this type of game?
It was good. It was good to get those guys some experience, and I thought that Tucker did a good job, considering obviously things to clean up, and it was good to see Mitchell, in there at guard. He's predominantly been a tackle, so that gives us a little bit more depth. So, biggest thing for us is got to have as many guys ready. First of all, that are available, and then ready to go and contribute. So, we're going to rep those guys all week and have them ready to go, and we're learning that you're one snap away at every position. So they have to be. So to answer your question, they have to be ready to be a part of the rotation, considering kind of how this season has gone.
You mentioned staying in the hunt. Just at what point does your engineering brain start doing the math of here are the dominoes that need to fall at State, Wake Forest?
I let the other guys around me, the young guys, that those calculations and formulas are too complex for me. I can't keep track of it. I just know that hey, there's a chance, right? I'm focusing on, all right, this game right here, how we can figure out how to outscore or have more points than Wake Forest at the end of the game, and then see how the cards fall out.
Getting Shipley and Pace back, how much should that help?
Big for us, and Phil. In fairness to Phil, early on. There wasn't as much push, but then there were a couple of runs I thought that he could have found. I thought there were a couple that Rencher could have found. We had a lot of RPO stuff, and then just structurally, they were starting to load the box, 7 in the box, and give you one high soft coverage. So we had to take the layups that they were giving us when we could to stay on rhythm. But to get Shipley back, I think Shipley brings a big piece of leadership. You know, from a vocal standpoint, but more importantly from how he plays and how he runs. He inspires his teammates around him, and that's what great players do. They make their teammates better by raising the level of play of their teammates. And the same thing with Kobe. And so for those guys to be able to be there to push each other, to complement each other, and when you may not have everything blocked the way you want it, those two type of guys are an eraser. They can make things a lot like Travis was. He was an eraser. He can make things right when it's not pretty. So excited to get those guys back this week. And they were available and ready to go last week, but coach and the staff decided that the best thing was to let them get healthy.
Tony, you mentioned trying to figure out how to score more points.
Yep.
In Wake Forest. Do you let your mind think, hey, we may be in a shootout, we may have to score on 8 of our 10 possessions or whatever it's going to take to finish up front?
Well, we're always trying to score on every possession. You know, that's the mindset. When we go out there, we want to score, every time we get on the field, or at least reserve the right to kick. That's our offensive theory. We reserve the right to kick, and we say, let's put an emphasis on kicking, extra points after scoring touchdowns, but at least get ourselves in position to get a field goal. Not going to put that pressure on myself or the players. We understand that this is the biggest game of the season because it's the one we have right now. There's going to be a lot of factors around the game from an emotional standpoint that we can't let drain us or get to us, and then we just got to focus on clean execution, right? And then make sure that we not only match but we exceed the level of effort and want to of our opponent.
You mentioned leadership doesn't have an age prerequisite.
That's right.
Can you remember a time where you had this many young players having to maybe step up in some moments or anything like that?
I don't recall a situation with as many, of the young guys, and like I said, this is a unique situation because on offense, you think about it, pretty much all of our seniors that were playing are out. Bockhorst is out, Galloway's out. It's we're hoping to get Ross, this week, but he left the game. Trying to think of any other, Rencher and Sweeney and Will played last game, but. Those guys have been support players, role players, right? But the guys that have been starters for us, that are seniors, they're all out, and not coming back, well, with the exception of possibly Ross. So that's a little bit different. Normally we've had, some guys that were playing senior leadership that were in the huddle when you step on the field, but now those young guys, right? And then your quarterback's just a sophomore too, a true sophomore, right? And so he's 12 games into his career, and the first 2. Right, saw some adversity, but the last 10, he's been persevering through I'll just say a unique year.
What kind of dynamic does that bring, considering some of the growing pains and miscues, things like that?
What kind of dynamic? It's just to not focus on, not make it bigger than what it is. Just focus on what you can control. Stay inside out. And then as coaches, we gotta help lead, in certain situations when you would like for your players to take the active role in leading. Us as coaches, we gotta provide that, and then constantly remind, these young men of the foundation that they stand on. What this program is all about, and the reason why they came here, and the reason why this program will continue to be successful going forward is because of the foundational principles that are in place.
You mentioned DJ's 2 games last year.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are finding it hard to square that when he executed so freely and effortlessly and successfully with what we've seen most of the year this year. Is that fair to wonder? And what is your how do you square the two?
Well, I look at that's DJ to me, right? And I know that what he's going through now is going to result in what we saw and beyond in the first 2 games last year, right? Because of all the adversity that he's gone through. I mean, it's going to propel him in life, and I think it's justified, but a little bit unrealistic and unfair considering the dynamics around him. Everything's constantly changing. Like you look at if you want to compare him to a standard, you look at Trev and Deshaun. Man, they for the most part had their pieces in place, that they could feed on, that could help them, in a situation to make things right. Where his pieces have constantly been changing. They're constantly moving around, and he's got to be able to persevere through that. With the struggles on the offensive line, there's been games where we've got him hit. Last game we had too much interior pressure that he couldn't really step into his throws and follow through. But the young man's still battling, and he hasn't cracked. Man, he's accepted, he's accepted the challenge, and that's what I know and believe. That's why I believe and know that there's going to be something that comes out of this, and it's going to be a refined young man that's going to be able to reach his potential, as he comes through this period in his journey.
When guys transfer out during the off season, that's one thing. When it happens during the season, how disappointing is it? And more difficult to understand? Maybe?
It's a little bit more difficult to understand, because you want to see young people, persevere. And at the end of the season, then the decision, you got to weigh all the options, make the decision. I have no issue with that. But in season, I just and for the young men too, it's just don't allow yourself to create that mindset and that habit of not finishing something. You see what I'm saying? Because that's going to follow you wherever you go. And then also understanding too that the grass isn't always greener on the other side. And there's a lot of things that they don't know, right, about the business of college football, right? So persevere, and then assemble your council and figure out what the best decision is for you going forward in the future. But it's just we've created an opportunity for it. Some guys have taken advantage of it, and it's a little bit hard to understand because then there doesn't have to be a ton of communication in that process, and that's the frustrating thing, because you want to be able to just sit down and talk to young people, but they have the ability to go to compliance and say, I want to get in the portal.
Does the 4-game redshirt rule kind of play into that sometimes? Seems like the downside of it.
The downside, but I think now you approach it, that a lot of these guys are going to be 3-year guys, and so you want to try and figure out which ones can get on the field to help you, and then also which ones you might have around here for 4 or 5 years. So I don't know if that has much of an impact on the transfer piece. I really haven't dived into it and thought about it from that perspective, but I know we do have conversations in terms of, from a talent standpoint, development standpoint. There's some guys that come in like a Sammy Watkins, like you're going to have him 3 years, so you don't even think about redshirting. You get them on the field. And then there's other guys that may need a little bit of development, so you say, okay, like a Tristan Lee, let's figure out which 4 games we can try and get him some experience, unless we have a situation where now he's in the 2 deep, and he was in there playing this past week. So you may not be able to take advantage of those 4 games. You may have to play a guy the entire season.
So on these throws where it looks like the ball just sort of flutters out of DJ's hand, is that strictly him not being able to step up, or do you see something else going on with that?
Like I said, I think some of it is throwing across the body just a little bit, and I think in the game there was some of it was the not being able to step up and follow through, because again, when you finish, you got to finish coming down, all right, with your index finger, being the last thing that touches the ball, and when you can't follow through, then you might not be able to complete your throwing motion to put the tight spiral on the ball, and he throws it hard. It comes out hard. And even there's been instances in practice where we've seen that it gets to where it needs to be, but it may not always have the tight spiral on it. And again, I think you look at some of the quarterbacks in the NFL, it isn't always a pretty tight spiral, but it gets to where it needs to be.
So do you feel like, I guess, when they're loading up the box and you're throwing the little screen out, that you're gonna have to get some yards that way, and then the blocking and stuff?
Yeah. Well, that, and I thought yesterday I didn't. Not yesterday. What's the day? Monday. Saturday. So Saturday I didn't think the blocking was bad. We just didn't win the one-on-ones. If you get to one-on-one with a defender, Bo had 2 opportunities to go one-on-one. You got to make a miss. That's the best. That's the best we can do is get you one-on-one. Now we're gonna challenge those guys to make decisions and understand angles, especially when you're a receiver and you got 2 guys. You got to block the most dangerous. Which one do you want to block? Which one's the closest? You got to make a real-time, full-speed decision. So there was an opportunity maybe to let him have a better chance on the one with a chase angle than the guy head up. But still, if you're 1-on-1 and you got the ball and you got space, you got to make guys miss. And then I think the one on Will Sweeney, the ball was a little bit out in front, right, that carried him right into the to the cut block. Well, had the ball been, on his front pad and he didn't have to, attack the line of scrimmage to go catch the ball, then he's going to run right around that cut block and he's going to be, on the perimeter with some big yards. So I think it's a combination of we're going to have to block well, but then we're also going to have to be great runners with the ball after the catch and make people miss.
After the car, you go with EJ, who kind of next.
So you got a Joe, you got Will Brown, you got Will Sweeney. Those I think that's what we're rolling with.
Any questions for Coach from Zoom?
Hey Tony, this is Anna on Clemson 24/7.
Yes, ma'am.
It seems like Jake Stoll has really made the most of his opportunities when he's been in there. What's the next step for him, I guess, to become even more involved in the passing game?
So you've seen, he's moved up the depth chart, and now he's right behind Sage, Davis, Sage, and him, pushing for quality snaps. We all know what he can do in the passing game. Just the biggest thing is you can't just sub, when it's a passing situation. He's got to be able to go in there and function in all of the run game. He's improving. He's improving a lot. There's still some things. I think about the speed sweep that we tossed. He bypasses the guy when he should have grabbed the stand-up defensive end to get the party started so that we wouldn't have a TFL. So those are the things, just the kind of the big picture and nuances of the position will allow him to be on the field so that he can be a part of those passing situations. And then, going forward too, he's a guy that has shown that he's got that ice water in his veins. He'll go up there and they'll make a play. Davis is leading the way. It seems like when you throw the ball to Davis, he's coming down with it. So biggest thing for Jake is just continue to progress, physically when he gets in there. Very pleased with how he plays physically. He's a guy that likes contact. It's just now being able to function in all the situations so that he can be in the game when the passing game to the tight end is called.
Could we see more Davis Allen out wider in the slot?
He's getting a little better at that, isn't he? But that's a different world, and we're working on making sure that he has, the right fundamentals and techniques and understanding of playing out there, because it's tough to just throw a guy out there and say, hey, go play into the boundary. But Davis will do whatever we need him to do, and obviously, kind of get a better sense of where Ross is going to be, as we go through the week. But it's going to be all hands on deck, doing whatever we need to do to try and score some points. He's still pretty green. Got a catch, got him in there, but he's still learning. And again, he didn't come in the summer like Dakari and Bo, so those guys are ahead from that standpoint. And then in fall camp, you get reps, but we had all the top guys during fall camp, so your reps are limited when you're not in the 3 deep at that point in time. So we're trying to get him up to speed, get him ready to go. He'll be another one. I should have mentioned him, Stellato, when you asked about the wideouts. But he's a guy right now that we got to pick our spots until we can get him up to speed to be able to function.
You anticipating Tyson will be available today to run with the twos?
I'm anxious to see. He's got his shoulder. They didn't say it was overly severe, but again, it is his throwing shoulder. So we got to see where he's at from a comfort standpoint. Hopefully 2 days. One thing I know, I'm gonna knock on wood. I know he heals fast. He came back from that Achilles pretty quick. But at the same time, too, you want to do what's best for the young man as well.
Tony, Ben Portnoy from the state. A little bit off topic, but obviously you worked with Bobby Lamb early in your career at Furman. I'm just curious, what you remember about working for Bobby and kind of what he means to football in the state of South Carolina as well.
Working for Bobby was probably where I'd say majority of my growth as a young coach took place because of the environment that he created. In challenging, in working with him and Tim Soros, I came from a passing background, and whenever I wanted to recommend a pass concept, I had to know how to protect it. So I had to learn learn protections really quick, and then I also had to learn some different concepts from perimeter blocking because of all the option principles that they had in the offense. But first and foremost, Bobby's an awesome human being, very level-headed, very down to earth, treats people with respect. Man, I don't recall many times where, I had to hear him, raise his voice. He knows how to communicate and get his point across. So it was he understands how to manage his coaches, to how to balance, football and family. Created a family atmosphere where I didn't have kids at the time, but family was welcome in the facility. And then what he did as a player at Furman too, and how long he coached at Furman. Obviously, is going to be one of the best coaches that come out of the state from a college perspective once it's all said and done. So really, really excited for him and his new opportunity. He knows how to build a program. He did it down at Mercer, and so I'm excited for him and his opportunity.
Anything else for Coach?